I'm a bit frustrated with when I watch Cork because I think the talent is there, but I wondered at the start of the year, maybe there was an injury I didn't know about, but Luke Meade seems to be sitting on the bench and I couldn't understand. And then ultimately he comes in for the Waterford game and he's been very important. Rob Downey was out, then he was in. I don't think wing back really suited him. I think Damien Cahalane, even though he scored a nice point and won some ball in front, he tended to be, instead of collecting the ball in front, he was nearly scooping it out because seemed to me a little bit unsure of his touch. Thought Conor Cahalane looked very good last year. He's fallen down the pecking order. Alan Cadigan comes off the bench and scores 3 points. And I've seen his name sitting on the bench a few times and I'm wondering, why is he not being used here? If he's playing this well, why isn't he getting a chance? I know he's had a lot of injuries. So I come away, and like the Kieran Joyce being at centre-back, that's asking an awful lot of a 20-year-old. And I know he's a great hurler, but I think the same as Coleman, the back door was very wide open. And some of the high balls coming in on top of a 20-year-old, and he's touching it down and it could go anywhere. I do think he will be a brilliant player for them. But I just wondered, did they know their best team all year? Is that excusable at this stage of the game? And, will Kieran stay on?
It's the one flaw that I would kind of have highlighted maybe with Kingston this year is I really don't think he knew what his best 15 was, and I really don't think they got a balance in terms of how they wanted to play. They kind of fell into this team. They fell into like Tim O'Mahony going back to corner forward. Like it was kind of nearly a needs must rather than a choice, I think, that he had. Like, he kind of gave into maybe media pressure in terms of Mark Coleman going to wing back. It was nearly a stubbornness like that. There was probably too many opinions on the team. There was, they weren't going well, but then when you're not going well, you kind of have to do something. You can't. But the one thing I would ask is, do they really have a strategic plan of how they wanted to play? I think the way you're looking at setting up your team now, you have to look and go, is this going to be good enough to beat Limerick? And I think you have to set up from the very start of the year and kind of go, is the style of play that we're going to, play with going to stand up to Limerick? Because, if it doesn't stand up to Limerick, you're not winning All Ireland, in my books, because you're going to have to beat them somewhere. And they've shown a number of times that, their style of play is not suited to playing against Limerick because they give them too much space and they stand off them and they let them have the ball and stuff like that. I just don't think they have that raw intensity. They have loads of lovely hurlers. Don't get me wrong, they have loads of fantastic hurlers, but they don't have that level of tackling in their forward line that would really put pressure on backlines. Like Harnedy, Lahan, Robbie O'Flynn, they are fantastic hurlers. Hoggy, Alan Connolly, but did you ever see any of them do, a swarm tackle on a Galway backline coming out? It just wasn't there, and it wasn't there all year. It's like as if they kind of all funnel backwards the minute, Galway have the ball, and they're all kind of in no man's land. They're kind of getting the ball passed between the lines rather than actually putting pressure on teams. Whereas if we look at what has been successful this year, it's that pressure, it's that turnover, it's making sure that, backlines, when they get to a certain point, aren't able to, kind of find an easy ball to a full forward line, as much as that, because they don't have that work rate. It's obviously not something they're working on in training, and how they're turning over ball and stuff like that. They seem to want to play an awful lot of hurling, but the game has changed now, and you need to be able to kind of, I suppose, engage backlines when needs must, and when you want to put a bit of pressure on teams and, really, I suppose, make sure that the ball coming in isn't great. Because if you give backlines 2 seconds to pick out a forward line now, you're already behind the mark, because the forwards are just so good now. They're so fit and so physical and creating space that Cork just haven't got that match right, and I don't know, do they need somebody to come in and shake things up and really have a go at them? Because Kingston's probably a bit nice, in terms of what hurling he wants to play, and I don't think that's going to get them over the line.
For more exclusive content, go to patreon.com/OurGame.